So let's talk for a second about the Australian Gothic genre. So the Australian Gothic genre draws heavily on both the English and the Southern Gothic styles of a Gothic story, but it's done in a very characteristically Australian way. So it kind of looks at this really strange Australian landscape that's kind of familiar but not really, and it portrays it in this really macabre, disturbing and distressing way, with lots of references to things like entrapment and death and crime, violence, poverty, alienation, and kind of is drawing a link from the colonial roots of Australia and the racism that is heavily present here. So today I want to have a look at the description of the enclave in which Laura's body was found. You can find this at the start-ish of page 14, and it starts with Jasper speaks fast, too fast to absorb, and for the first time I observed the surrounds, behind the eucalypt, which is broad and hollow at the base, etc. So there is lots of really great language here that you can annotate in your books. So today you're going to need 2 colors to do this activity: your color for language and your color that you have for setting. Now we're going to speak here a lot about how the setting is developing that Gothic genre, so that's going to be the focus here that we're going to look at. So let's start first at the beginning of the paragraph. Jasper speaks fast, too fast to absorb. So firstly, we've got 2 short sentences here, but notice the second one, too fast to absorb. This sentence does not contain the things that it needs to be a complete sentence. It doesn't have a subject and it doesn't have a verb. So therefore it makes it a dependent clause and an incomplete sentence. So why do you think Craig Silvey would have chosen to have an independent clause followed by Jasper speaks fast? Think about Charlie's mental state at the time, and think about the fact that this is sort of stream of consciousness style of these are like his afterthoughts. The fact that it says fast and then too fast is another language feature that we've spoken about before, so see if you can figure out what that is, and then you can speak about that and put an annotation there that says that technique, plus it being a dependent clause and what that shows about Charlie's mental state at this time. Then a line down, it says behind the eucalypt, which is broad and hollow at the base, like an open tent. So think about the connotations of tents. When you think of a tent, you probably think of some more positive memories, fun times, those sorts of good things. But this positive image is really contrasted with the macabre of what is happening in this situation. So you can make a note about that. Also, like an open tent is a language feature that you can note down, and this would be in your setting color. There are also references to lots of Australian things here. We've got eucalypt, waterhole, shrubs and trees, and all of those things are making this a more of an Australian style Gothic setting. Charlie refers to it as being an enclave. Okay, an enclave really has connotations of being enclosed in something, which links to the Gothic element of entrapment. So think about how Charlie is sort of surrounded by the trees in this small clearing in Jasper's little world. He says that it would normally be something quite nice, but right now it just seems sinister and suffocating. There is a very clear language sound device being used here, and it really creates an eerie and ominous sort of feel. So see if you can figure out what language feature is being used there. Onto the next paragraph, it says that the eucalypt extends a thick arm. Okay, this here, it's not actually an arm, so think about what it is. And then I'm going to come up with a word that describes how that creates a feeling. So what feeling is being created for the reader by that thick language feature. And then lastly, we talked about the enclave in the middle of that first paragraph, and now at the end of this second paragraph that we're looking at, it says there are no footholds or grips. Okay, so it really kind of gives this feeling of there is no safety. He's completely trapped and there is not really any safety. If Laura was to go up this tree, it would have been very, very difficult, and it's a kind of a decision that there's no turning back from. So it really gives this idea again of entrapment and no safety and being enclosed, which is a very, very common element of the Gothic genre, which is created through the setting here. So that's all we're going to look at today, just this small section. There's so much to talk about in this section, so I hope you've made some really good notes. If you missed anything, go back, pause it, write things down, and then keep going so that you've got everything that you need.